Hello, I'm Garnet, and this is Eggs, and this is my top 5-ish Harvest Moon games that I want Story of Seasons remakes for. The games I picked for this list will all be older games that I think are good or even great, but could use improvements. I don't want just one-on-one remakes with nothing new besides better graphics, and I don't want another version of a game I already think is perfect. The Friends of Mineral Town remake made some amazing improvements, and I expect something at least that good from every remake from now on. Maybe that's... Marvelous has told us to expect more remakes, so here's what I want from them. Alright, I'm gonna put both numbers 4 and 5 together, sort of, because they have something in common. Number 5, Harvest Moon for the Super Nintendo. This would also count as being a remake for Harvest Moon Game Boy and Game Boy Color, since those were remakes of the original. In Super Nintendo, you could only play as Pete and Mary Bachelorettes. Game Boy and Game Boy Color added in Sarah, so you could choose to play as a girl if you want, but there's no marriage in those versions at all. In SNES, Grandpa has passed away and you've inherited his farm. You have until year 3, summer 30, and then the game ends. Ow, I'm hitting things, sorry, My area got more cramped recently, and I move my hands while I talk. Where was I? You have until year 3, summer 30, and then the game ends. There are about 20 endings, I think. Only one of them could be considered bad. I like the idea of having different little cutscenes for each ending. I think those should stay in a remake, but the game should still continue after that instead of having to start over. And number 4, Save the Homeland and Hero of Leaf Valley. Hero of Leaf Valley was already a remake of Save the Homeland, but I definitely think they need remade again. In Save the Homeland, you could only play as a guy, Toy, and couldn't get married at all, though there was a bit of romance. In Hero of Leaf Valley, they added in marriage, but for some reason you can't have kids, and can still only play as a guy in Mary Bachelorettes. Why? There were already other Harvest Moon games at that time that let you play as a girl. And this game was not lacking at all in attractive guys, okay? The story for these was really interesting. You've inherited a farm from your late grandfather, of course, but you have a time limit to somehow save the village from being turned into an amusement park. Like SNES, these ones had several different endings, but not really in the same way. More is on the line here, and you could fail more easily if you don't know how to get the ending you want, and the time limit is shorter. In Save the Homeland, you only have 1 year to get an ending. Then it would take you back to the beginning of the year. You get to keep your farm and stuff, but no one will remember ever meeting you before. There are 9 endings. In Hero of Leaf Valley, you have 2 years, and as long as the ending was good, you get to move on to year 3 and continue playing normally afterwards. Endings are more complicated. There are 16 storylines that you can complete that aren't actually the endings themselves. Hi, cat, what are you doing? Okay, what? Oh, right, okay. There are 16 storylines you can complete that aren't actually the endings themselves, and you can do as many as you want during those first 2 years. Then if you have 50,000 G, which I've always assumed was gold, at the end of the second year, there's 3 more actual endings you can get. My cat is very distracting. If you don't have that money, there's 3 more. What have I actually been saying? I couldn't even concentrate, but I know I was saying words. If you don't have the money you need, there's 3 more endings that have to do with stories you've completed, but one of those endings is bad. I completely lost track of what... Okay, so why did I group these together? What do they have in common besides different endings? Magical Melody. Magical Melody took the Bachelorettes from SNES and Saved the Homeland, but not Hero of Leaf Valley. turned some guys from Save the Homeland into bachelors and created new bachelors to fit in with the SNES characters and put them all into one game. That's great, but it's because I want remakes of these games separately that I actually don't really want a remake for Magical Melody, even though I know a lot of other people do. I'd rather have the goals and endings that each of those games have instead of just collecting musical notes. I think they're a lot more interesting. I do want the SNES remake to have some of the characters that were created for Magical Melody though. And I'd want the Save the Homeland and Hero of Leaf Valley remake to have the same guys as bachelors, plus a few extras from Hero of Leaf Valley to match up with the extra bachelors from there. There's probably some other things from Magical Melody that could be added into those remakes to try and satisfy people too. So, what I want the SNES remake to have? Pete and Sarah as the default main characters, maybe customizable. Nina and Ellen, Maria, and Eve as the bachelorettes as usual. Okay, and then I definitely want Blue, Carl, Ray, and Dan. We'll get to the fifth one. Also, I thought maybe Jamie, too, could be added. Like, would Jamie fit in with those characters, maybe? I was trying to think maybe they could be added to one or the other. New characters are welcome, since it's just kind of mostly the same. The ability to have at least 2 children. Multiple possible ending scenes with the ability to play after. I'm going to assume that all future games will have same-sex marriage since, you know, Friends of Mineral Town as a remake had it, and then a whole new game had it. They added it to Rune Factory. I assume it's staying, so I'm not gonna like list that like every single time as something I want now. It's automatic, I'm pretty sure. And I'd want a Save the Homeland and Hero of Leaf Valley remake to have Toy, or that's his fan name at least, it says Toy on his hat, Toy as the main character for the guy, but then I want a new girl to be made to play as a girl. Yeah. And yeah, of course, maybe customizable. And I better be able to give Toy his ponytail if I want. I do not like that they cut it off. And, okay, Gina, Dia, Katie, Gwen. How do you actually say this name? Like Layla or Lila? Alice. Oh crap, I don't even know. I'm not gonna try and say this name. I don't know how to say her name. The girl with the really, really pink hair. And the Harvest Goddess. Of course, all of those would be bachelorettes just like they were in Hero of Leaf Valley. And then Kurt, Joe, Bob, Lewis, Charles, Zan, and maybe would Rudolph. Who do you want to marry? There's also an extra blank spot I have for here as well, just like in SNES. I'll get to that in actually just a split second here. Alright. The ability to have at least one child, because you couldn't have any at all before. We need to at least be able to have one. Multiple endings with the ability to play after. Alright, these blank spots here are because I'm not sure what to do with Alex and Basil or Parsley, whatever you want to call him. At first I thought Alex for SNES and Basil, Parsley, and the other. But since the SNES characters are related to the 64 characters where Doctor didn't exist, and Mineral Town being an alternate universe, Alex's existence here is a bit odd. And as far as rivals go, he was paired up with Gina. I don't expect rival marriages to return, but it's just a way for me to figure out who should like belong in which game, like who should be the marriage candidates is by matching them up with how they were matched up before. Then there's, you know, Basil Parsley. He's called Parsley in Save the Homeland and Hero of Leaf Valley, but they called him Basil in Magical Melody, which I assume he's supposed to be the same character, but then he shares the name with Basil from Mineral Town. That's really confusing, but... of course, he would still exist and save the Homeland in Leaf Valley no matter what. But, should he be a bachelor there? Should you be able to marry him, or should he just be another character? I don't know about Leaf Valley, but I remember him leaving and marrying a girl in another village and save the Homeland. And in Magical Melody, he gets paired up with Nina. So it's my theory that he also meets her and Save the Homeland. So while he exists in Save the Homeland, Leaf Valley, you know, no matter what, he would definitely be there in the remake. I think he could also be in the SNES remake as well as a bachelor. So yeah, maybe we should switch these two from what I originally thought. What do you guys think? Where do you think these two belong? I hope I'm not just confusing you. I don't think everyone thinks this hard about any of this. Moving on. Number 3. Game Boy Color 2 and 3. Or actually, the numbers come before the letters. Whatever. Between these two games, I prefer 2. It's simple, and I like the characters. Even though there's not really much to them, I don't know. But I'm sure a lot of people would prefer 3, since there's more to do. Some characters from 2 show up in 3 anyway. They could probably be combined into one game. In 2, we actually have the amusement park thing again. You have 3 years. As far as I know, there's just a good ending and a bad ending, not quite as interesting as the other amusement park games. It's the gameplay in the town I like in this one, not so much the story. Then 3 is sort of a sequel to 2. If you play as Pete, you're already a great farmer and move away from the farm in 2. Which 2 takes place in Flower Bud as well, just like how SNES and the Game Boy games and 64 does. Oh, and Magic Melody. Yeah, that one's in Flower Bud. But you move away from there and live with Sarah. If you are Sarah, your father Harry passed away and Pete comes to help you on the farm. So Sarah's already from this other place that I can't think if there's actually a name for it or not. Even though you can play as her in 2, which... That's not really related to what I'm saying. Okay. You can get married, but only to each other. The game ends if you get married as Sarah, but it continues if you get married as Pete and you can have kids. That was definitely not fair at all. It also wasn't very fair that forces you to focus more on animals as Sarah and on crops as Pete. I get that we're supposed to work together, but you can at least let me pick which one I like. And also give both characters access to all the tools, because sometimes the other character slacks off so bad. And yeah, Sarah can't upgrade the tools, and Pete doesn't have the brush. Was there something else that I was missing? Could he milk? I don't remember. I know he could feed the animals. I prefer playing as Sarah, because at least I can still use the tools, even though I can't upgrade them. I'm getting distracted. Again, this is not on my little scripty thing. So anyway, I don't know which story I'd rather go with. I'm not super attached to either. If it's like 3, where you live with the opposite character, but you can marry other characters, then maybe the other character could have their own little house built on the farm when that happens. That'd be cute. What I do want. Pete and Sarah as the default main characters, maybe customizable. Rosie, Daisy, Mary, Nancy, Elza, Kate, Lucia, that name again, Layla, and Marla. For bachelorettes, the first 4 being from 2 and the rest being from 3. And then Chet, Bill, Will, and Doctor from 2. I don't really know. And Bigby, Billy, Cozy, Joe, and Lucas from 3. That's who I'm thinking so far for who might make good marriage candidates. Maybe. Who do you guys think, if you play the games, would be good? And the ability to have at least 2 children, because I'm pretty sure you can do that. You can play as Pete in 3, is have 2 kids. Want to be playable past marriage for everyone. And all tools available. Yeah. All tools available for everyone. Okay, so next, I'm going to count the Friends of Middletown remake as also being a Back to Nature and Boy and Girl remake as well, since the Game Boy Advance version was already a Back to Nature remake. It's the same town and characters, but you know what's not the same? Number 2, Harvest Moon 64. 64 takes place in Flowerbud, not Mineral Town. And while the characters look the same and have the same names, these are different people, different personalities, families, jobs. In the Friends of Mineral Town remake, Marvelous changed the appearances of the cast to fit them better. So now if there's ever a 64 remake, they can actually look like their own separate characters. I'll know if the potpourri I'm looking at is from Flowerbud Village or Mineral Town. In Harvest Moon 64, you have until Spring 30, Year 3 to get your farm ready for your dad to come evaluate your work. After that, you can play forever. You can collect photos, and getting a complete album sounds really hard to do. Maybe a remake could make it a tad easier, since I've read some scary things of people trying to get certain pictures and no one knowing what to do. There's a whole character and events that have to do with her that was removed from the original game, and I totally think she should be added back in. Princess Vanilla was turned into a turtle, and you help her turn back. It's so cute. What the heck? What I want from a 64 remake, Pete and either Sarah or Claire as the default main characters. Claire seems like she would make sense in 64, since it tends to get looped in with the other kinds of games she's in, but I think Sarah might be better because it's a game that takes place. It's a game that takes place in Flowerbud. Or maybe a new girl, maybe, I don't know. And yeah, they might be customizable. Potpourri, Ellie, Anne, Karen, Mary, and Princess Vanilla. As the Bachelorettes. That's what I want. Gray, Jeff, Cliff, Kai, Harris, and Rick. He's a very different Rick. As bachelors. And the ability to have at least one child. Could you have more than one children in that one? I don't remember. And finally, number 1. A Wonderful Life and its variations may or may not include the DS games. I wasn't sure if they should be a separate thing or not, because technically the DS games take place 100 years after Mineral Town and Wonderful Life, and all the characters are actually their totally identical looking descendants that have the same personalities and jobs as them, and the same families somehow. Yeah, don't think too hard about those family trees. Maybe that's a reason why the DS games should get their own remake, where the characters go through massive changes in order to make that whole thing make sense. But what I really want is a Wonderful Life remake that has some DS stuff going on, such as Flora as a bachelorette. There's so many things I want for this one besides just combining the 2 different gendered versions and having a bunch of candidates, though. I need something to happen after I get all the tablets. I need the sprites to find all their nices, whatever those are, and finally summon the Harvest Goddess from that pond. I need to get inside some of those doors. And it'd be cool if there was a witch princess behind this particular door here, but with like a Wonderful Lifestyle 3D model. It would be really nice if the remake's look was similar to the originals, because this world gives me such a good feeling, you know? I always thought it'd be cool to see characters from other games in that style, so having the DS only characters would be cool. I mean, don't you want to go into first person view and watch Sky come down that weird hill tunnel thing? And even though you do die at the end of this one, they could still do the Heaven chapter thing that they did in Special Edition, so you can keep playing past the end if you want. Some people would want to play as your kid, but your kid might not even turn out to be a farmer, so I don't think that'd work. It'd be cool to add in more job options for your kids, though. I want a chef child. Ugh. And your daughter should look like your spouse, just like how your son does. That has always bothered me. A Wonderful Life makes the most sense to be the next remake. Van and Ruby, they may actually call them different. But yeah, Van and Ruby show up in the Mineral Town remake, and Brandon mentions Forgotten Valley, which I assume is probably a more accurate translation for Forget-Me-Not. Mineral Town and Forget-Me-Not belong together. And what I'd want from this remake? Mark and Pony as the main characters, of course. Customizable. Celia, Muffy, Nami, Flora. I guess Lumina, since she was one. I don't know. Yeah, I guess she could just start out just like how they did with DS, already being like that. It's gonna make her learning piano a little less cute, maybe. But yeah, Lumina can start out already grown up. And the Harvest Goddess, because I want the sprites to summon the Harvest Goddess, so I want her as a bachelorette too. I definitely want... How many did I just say? 6. Those 6. I definitely want those 6 as bachelorettes. And then for the guys, Marlon, Rock, Gustafa, Carter, Griffin, and I want Cody to be the one to balance it out. If we just do 6 of each. I want Cody. And then, you know, I don't know if we add more DS characters. Of course, there was the Witch Princess, Leia, and Kara. I don't know if she would still be able to be there because she was in the mines, and there's not really mines in A Wonderful Life. There's the dig site. It doesn't go down. I don't know if she could be there at all. And then there's Sky and I guess Mason. But Mason's thing, wasn't it that, like, he's May's son? Like, because it's 100 years? Wait, how does that even work if it's 100 years? How old was she when she had that child? I don't know. Maybe he's her grandson. He was supposed to be related to May, wasn't he? Or was that a theory? Because, yeah, there's the time skip. I'm confused. But yeah, if Mason was added into either A Wonderful Life or a DS remake, would you want to see his face? Because you don't see his face in DS Cute. You only talk to him over the phone. And yeah, it doesn't show you him at all. Would you want to see his face, or would you want him to still be faceless? Oh, that's kind of scary. Okay, and then at least one child that ages to an adult gets a career and a Heaven chapter. So that we can still do the dying thing because it's kind of neat. But you can keep on playing afterwards. After you die. Okay, so tell me what you think about that list. The one I care the most about, it was definitely the number one, of course. That's why I put it as number 1. But yeah, tell me what you think. Do you agree with any of these at all? What remakes would you want to see? And if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, ring that notification bell if you want notifications. I've got a Twitter, I've got Patreon, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!